Taima unikkaarea ngaleraamaima unikkaarea qaqqaugama taikkua sivullivun aqviniartiin inuuppata qallunaanguppataluunniit kinauppataluunniit taikkua sivullerittarnerartiku ullumi mutikittuta taima tamanna upigitsiagialivut uvangani upigitapaalugigakku taimaittuugia taikkua sivulikka aqviniartiminiummata ilunnatsiaqaapiting tusaumangitaqaluakka qanuiliuhattartuminiummangaata ammaluttau tamakkua piqatikka ilakkalu sivuliqarmimmata aqviniartiminerning tamanna upigitsiaqialivun taimaittuugatta ullumimun tikittumariapiugatta tusaumatitau lutalu taikkuninga sivuliqilaortatinning tamanna pimmarialu hataumman inuit inuusinginnun ilanginnunila amisortuaqaalunnun ukiortartumiunnun tamanna inuusitta ilagilernermau aqviniarner ilagitsiarmaungila ullumimun tikittunilu taikkua sivulivun upigitsiarlavut ammaluttau uvattinning upigiluta sivuliqariaq taikkuninga aqviniartiminerna quyannami
My name is Gil Ross. I'm a teacher of 35 years and have been studying whaling in the Canadian Arctic since 1964. I've written a few things about it. I've interviewed a few Inuit and Pangnirtung, and it's a subject of deep interest to me, and I hope to you. Davis Strait. You recognize it? Well, whaling was one of the most interesting industries in the world, and I think it probably had an extent, a geographical distribution that was almost global. Whalers were hunting from the Arctic down to the Antarctic. They were hunting in the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Oceans. They went virtually everywhere. And it's also interesting from the point of view of participating countries, because a number of countries, mostly in Europe, but also the United States and some in Japan and other countries, were involved in the whaling. So it was an international activity of a fantastic geographical extent. Now, from our point of view, thinking of northern Canada, the story starts about here. There had been a fishery around Spitsbergen, and much earlier than that, at the time of Jacques Cartier, there was a fishery down here in the Strait of Belle-Île called the Grand Bay whaling. It was in the 1540s. They were whaling off the Labrador coast. Then Spitsbergen, starting about 1610. Then, in the 1700s, late 1600s, early 1700s, whalers began to investigate this territory here. The name for the whole thing is called the Davis Strait Whaling Grounds, or the Davis Strait Whale Fishery, even though the whale was not really a fish. This was monopolized by the Dutch, with a few North German and other countries involved. And they whaled in the 1700s for more than a century along this coast. Later, the British were to come into the picture and whale along what they called the west side, the coast of Baffin Island. So for a whole century, the Dutch and a few British ships were confined to this Greenland coast. But they killed a lot of whales, and they had thousands of voyages up to about 1802. Now, British whalers pressed farther north in the 1800s, and I'll show you what the situation is with regards to ice distribution. This is the limiting factor for a whaling ship's itinerary. This is, let's say, the middle of May. There was no problem for ships to come around Cape Farewell and up into Davis Strait. They would normally come right about here at the ice edge, because these whales like to locate themselves for feeding purposes near the edge of the flow, the pack ice. About the 1st of April, ships would get here. There was spray freezing on the rigging. Temperature was low. Conditions were atrocious. Very dangerous fishery. But as the season goes on, this ice edge migrates back with melting. And so by the middle of May, the ice edge is there, and the ships could go farther north.